Christmas time is here.
Almost, yeah. It's nice. Every Christmas, the day after Christmas, we have a tradition where Chloe started this. We go into a place where there's a mirror. It's often a bathroom, and we look into the mirror and we say, "Christmas will be here before you know it." So
it's true. Wiser words, man. That's pretty profound. And so you, Michael, had this great idea, leading up. We've been doing a lot of bonus episodes.
Yeah.
So why stop now? We can't stop the train.
Yeah. Keep it rolling through the holidays. I think it's good to have, an Advent type of reminder, to be thinking about, because this time is a busy time of year.
So busy. Yeah.
There's lots of stuff, a lot of good things that go on during this time. We often complain about the over commercialization, but there are good things that also take over time, whether they're Christmas programs for lower school, or they are, parties or whatever that you're trying to get to.
So many parties. It's all good stuff. So, a lot of white elephant things going on, get all those gifts. And I think you're right. Like I've got cousins of the Anglican tradition. Sometimes I am jealous of, they stay with the church calendar. So they're always emphasizing things, and they're like, oh, it's March, so we're emphasizing this, or April, and they're always, doing that. I think it is good to take time to emphasize certain things. I think the other side of it, you get into some of these, reform groups that are like, we never celebrate, we don't celebrate Easter because every day is every Sunday is Resurrection Day, and why are we gonna? And it's like, well, we're not trying to say you only can do this in certain times, but emphasis is there. Was thinking about our church has got this Paul Tripp everyday gospel Advent thing, and it's been, like you're saying, it's just good to have resources. This morning where I was able to talk with the kids, and it's like just packaged up nicely, a source I can trust. It's like 2 pages, and so it's a good jumping off point just to keep us focused day after day after day leading up. And the nice thing about our bonus episodes, it will be leading up to a Wednesday Christmas.
That's right. So these are on Wednesday, and Christmas is Wednesday. So you gather up. I know the kids are going to be anxious to open up gifts. Be like, kids, we got to put things in their proper place. Like, let's get out an iPhone, put it on a Bluetooth speaker. Open up this, our Advent for that morning. Gather everyone around. It'll be great.
How about this idea? Have a gift with a Bluetooth speaker in it. They open it up. Our voices start playing. That's good.
The gift of Christmas, take 2 theology.
Be like, I want the, whatever, the game system. But so hopefully this is an asset as you lead up to celebrating Christmas. And we're going to park in a passage that Michael kind of emphasized in our worship service this morning.
Yeah, so we thought we'd start out with this opening passage from John 1. Clearly, John had Genesis 1 on his mind when he wrote this, and starts out the same way. And so we'll just read through it, and we'll maybe talk about it a little bit. So it says, this is opening of the Gospel of John. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. Verse 3, all things came into being through him, and apart from him, nothing came into being that has come into being. So just a quick comment, this is, everything that came into being, everything that was created through the work and power of God the Son. He's the uncreated creator. So verse 4, in him was life, and the life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness did not comprehend it.
Wow. Very, very powerful opening. Like you said, parallels Genesis so well. I was reading this for a class. I had to read a few articles, and I really can't, maybe it was on Christology, and they were pointing to a lot of different essays where this is basically a midrash that you would see in Hebrew literature. Almost lines up perfectly with how you would read commentary on the Old Testament, pointing to Genesis 1, this familiar beginning. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was over the face of the deep. So you see the state of chaos. John's kind of picking up on that. He's going to run with this darkness and light theme. He hits it hard in 1 John. Pretty stark terms. You're either walking in the light or you're not walking in the light.
He also mentions it.
And so it's something, it's, John likes to talk a lot in the stark contrast where if you love me, keep my commandments. If you don't keep my commandments, you don't love me. And it's kind of black and white. And, he would go on to say a lot more about the light, really culminating, I think, when we think of incarnation, verse 14 talks about the word becoming flesh, this light into darkness. And that's just a good word picture to think about. And how is Jesus the light? Where is darkness? Because I think we all would agree, you look out at the world and it can be very dark, chaotic, void. You kind of, these Genesis terminology kind of makes a lot of sense. And then boom, this light kind of changes everything.
Yeah, no, it does. And so if you look back at kind of the history, the setting, historical setting of what's happening here, Israel's kind of in a dark place as well. They've gone 400 years without a prophet. So a lot of people call these the silent years. There's no true prophet there that's speaking on behalf of God. They were, conquered by these different nations. It went from Babylon to the Medes and the Persians, and then Alexander the Great came through, had a little bit of independence. I think it was the Maccabees that rose up, maybe for a few years, and Rome goes, and then they come conquer them. And it's like now they're conquered again. They're not independent. So there's a lot of darkness. Coming out of their captivity, you see this renewed vigor for keeping the law. You see Ezra really trying to do this, and I think they probably do well for a while, but then that starts going off the rails because they're trying to earn their righteousness through keeping of the law. And, Paul has a lot to say about that. And listen to some of our other podcasts. So this really dark place, and this light's going to shine in. It's going to, punch in through that and, help shed light on the dark things that they got going on.
Yeah, that's so good. You think of Ezra and Nehemiah, and it was like Zerubbabel came, built the temple, things are great. And then just like 30, 40 years later, things are not great. Ezra comes in, some reform, then Ezra's gone maybe for 10 or 20 years, and then Nehemiah comes, it's like bad again.
Yeah.
And it's like, you think of the contemporaries of that time or leading up to it, you read a lot, you got Jeremiah and Ezekiel kind of prophesying this new spirit. I'm going to write a law on your hearts, and it's like they think that's coming, and they're keeping it by the law. It's like, they're not getting it. And then this is the light.
Yeah.
Because that's what changes everything, because without that, I mean, man, who, even comparing us to Ezra and Nehemiah, man, they were really trying to nail it. Worked really hard.
Yeah.
And, we see even in our Roman series how that's continuing, and Jesus Christ actually became a stumbling block to them because they don't see him for what he is. They're still trying to earn their salvation. So I think that's a lot of good way to be thinking when we think about this light and this darkness, and so much darkness we see in Israel's past and even up to today. But that's not just Israel.
Yeah, no. Even all of us in our culture, and like every individual person, we're born in sin. So there's this darkness that comes along with us, and that rebellious, prideful, me-centered, focus on ourselves. That's darkness. It doesn't want to come to the light. And I was thinking, we were talking about, this theme of light and darkness, right after, it talks about men not wanting to come into the light so their deeds are not exposed.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And that's kind of all of us where we are. And then, we're thinking about America, and lots of times you think of America being a Christian nation. We're in the, someone said the Bible Belt the other day, and it was like, what do you mean by the Bible Belt? Like,
right.
And I guess it's kind of losing a little bit of its, but if you look at a map, most of Christians, the densest populated still in the formerly so-called Bible Belt.
What's like less strong than a belt, but still kind of looks like that? What can we name it? Next, it's the Bible.
Circlet or something like that.
The Bible sash.
Yeah.
Something. But yeah. Even with some of that, you can either have a false sense of security, or it's so watered. Yeah, it's so watered down. You're like, well, my parents go to church.
Right.
I'm good. And it's like, that's like some sort of blindness where you really don't see your need. That's a scary place to be.
Yeah. And so, the takeaway from this is to one, if, examine your own self. I'm sure if you're listening to this podcast, you're probably a believer. But if you're not, just to examine, have I come to the light? Have I come out of darkness into his marvelous light, as Paul would say in Colossians, and to be transferred from the kingdom of darkness into light? And, to take time to thank Jesus, whether you're a believer or not, or just became a believer, wherever you're at, take time to thank Jesus for the incarnation, for his coming into the world, speaking light, and John would also say life, into the darkness and the decay of our world.
No, that's great. Short little paragraph kicking off John. Big implications. Good thing to think about as we lead up each week to Christmas. So that's bonus episode number 1. Be on the lookout for a few more headed your way.
Yep. That's our take.
Thanks for listening to Take 2. Find us wherever you find podcasts and on YouTube for those who want to watch our videocast.